Today's review is the last of those beers that I got from the Beer Dad subscription box way back in probably October, I think it was. And this is a West Coast IPA called Authentic Frontier Gibberish. It's from Pomona Island, but what's it going to be like? Keep watching to find out. Welcome back to Rockers Beer Review. Today we're going West Coast IPA. Yeah, we don't have many of them on the channel, mainly because it's not really a style that I'm a big fan of. I've never really got my head around it, really. I mean, sometimes you can get West Coast IPAs that a little bit sort of moving towards the middle of the coast, so they're not as bitter. But a lot of the time, they're just a very poor version of what they should be. I think it's very difficult to get very good West Coast IPA. But I think this one's going to be a real sort of benchmark because it says it on the tin. It says anyway. It says, I think we're all indebted to this West Coast IPA. Not only is it authentic Cryo Citra, Cascade CGX, Magnum and Chinook, but it expresses an assertive bitterness and resinous piney backbone little seen in this day and age. I think a lot of people that are West Coast fans feel that they've been watered down a little bit, and it's probably because of this massive love of East Coast beers. I'm a massive fan of East Coast beers. I could drink them all the time, and pretty much 90% of the time is what I drink. I like the haziness. I like the soft mouthfeel. I like the fruitiness, the low bitterness. Everything this is almost the opposite of. But let's crack it open, get it in a glass, and see if it's any good. You know, it could be a really good West Coast. It could change my whole opinion of West Coast IPAs. Oh yeah, there's the colour of West Coast, that sort of coppery amber coloured beer. No mistaking that this is a West Coast. I mean, look at that. Look how dark orange that is. Burnt orange, copper coloured. It's quite a, I mean, you could say there's a slight haze in there. Again, the light looks fair, but if you look at it there, you can see, as he puts his hand through he's done it again. There we go. You can see my hand through there. So it's fairly clear, but it's quite a dark colour. We've got 2 fingers. I'd say it's fairly compacted, really, in terms of the head. So we might see a little bit of lace in there. So let's see what the aroma's like. Yeah, I mean, I'm not getting much in the way of fruits. I don't really get some real strong orange, marmalade, grapefruit aromas. I'm just smelling that piney, bitterness, resinous sort of aroma. Not really picking up anything fruity at all. But yes, probably what you probably would expect from a West Coast, a good West Coast. Right, let's drink it, shall we? Cheers, everyone. First things first, as soon as you drink it, there's a quality of this beer. It doesn't taste, it tastes like a proper West Coast. Straight away, you get this dry bitterness, and you're getting lots of resin. You're getting very dry. It's a very dry, I mean, it is dry, resinous bitterness. So as I said in the aroma, sometimes you can get some real sharpness of sort of grapefruit or some real sort of marmalade, a real strong orange rind flavour. But you're not really getting much in terms of fruit in this. It's smooth, it's easy drinking. It dries out your mouth like you wouldn't believe. It's like drinking a desert. And there isn't really much flavour. I mean, again, if you drink a lot of East Coast, I'm picking out, different tropical fruits, different citrus fruits. Sometimes you get coconut, sometimes you get your New Zealand flavours, you're getting grape and gooseberry and all this sort of stuff. There's loads of different types of flavours. With this, it tastes like a beer. You're getting maltiness as well as that sort of dry bitterness, resin, pininess. They're the flavours, really. There may be a little bit of grapefruit, but it's not that zest of grapefruit, really. It is the sort of the bitterness part of a grapefruit you can imagine. That's what you're getting here. but it's smooth and it goes down quite well. Again, I think, as a one-off, it's almost like a good palate cleanser if you drink a lot of New England IPAs that I do, because it is nothing like that at all. But you're getting a good quality beer. You're getting all that maltiness. If you drink a lot of more obscure sort of German beers, I mean the sort of, the darker sort of beers, it's more that what this is about, really. It'd be really difficult to pick out, what the different hops are doing. I mean, when I see Magnum, I always think that's a hop that you get more with bitters and with those sort of German beers as well. Chinook is always a bittering hop. Cascade, again, Cascade CGX, there's a few different Cascades. I think that's probably the American one. But Citra, you imagine you can have a Citra New England IPA, completely different flavours, and you can pick out the citrus fruits, but you're not really picking out much into way of fruit from here. I think it's a solid West Coast, but, I've drank half of it now, and it's made me really thirsty. The whole of the mouth is sort of dry. There's that sort of coating on the throat that just makes you want to drink something liquidy. But this has got a real bittering sort of dryness in the mouth. I mean, that's not a flavour that I really like. It's nothing that enjoyable for it. You're drinking it and you think, yeah, I'm drinking a real big man's beer here. It feels like a proper beer. There's no sort of weird, flowery, perfumey fruitiness about it, which a lot of people can say, well, that's not like proper beer. That's like, that's a fruit juice sort of thing. You're getting real beer flavours, but I want more. I want some flavour, really, and I'm not getting flavour. All I'm getting is the sort of the bitterness, the dryness, pininess, resin, that sort of stuff. I want a little bit of fruit. I've had some West Coasts, and I say I don't drink many because a lot of them are very sort of just not on my street. I've had some over the years that have been, you drink them and you just get, it's almost like really strong, thick cut marmalade. That's the flavour, I'm a big fan of that flavour, and I really enjoy that sort of. Yes, they're slightly bitter, and they are slightly dry, but there's still that fruit in the background, really. But with this, there's no fruit at all. It's a very traditional West Coast IPA, no messing about. So if you like that sort of thing, then it's probably quite a good one. I think I've got a bit. Pomona Island make quite a few West Coasts, because I've had a few West Coast from them, or I didn't even realise. So I think they've got a better pedigree in terms of that. And I think you find a lot of breweries these days, for every 5 New England type of IPAs, they might do 1 West Coast, probably even less than that in some instances. I think it's one of those styles of beers that's gone right out of fashion, and I don't know if it's ever going to come back into fashion. It is like a bit more of a lighter, more refreshing, old school bitter real ale, really. For me, this is what I think. I mean, if you're a West Coast fan, you probably say, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about, and I probably don't. But when I drink this, that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of, bitter, but it's got a little bit more carbonation. It's a little bit lighter. It's got a little bit more flavour, even if those flavours are still, compared with a New England IPA, a little dull. So yeah, I think I've drank enough. I'll try and get some scores. Okay, the scores are in for Authentic Frontier Gibberish. This is a West Coast IPA from Pomona Island. That may mean something to some people. They're always very clever and smart with the naming of their beers. There's usually sort of quotes from, popular cultural films or something like that. This is 7.3%, and as I say, it's got Citra, Cryo Citra, Cascade CGX, Magnum, and Chinook. It's very West Coasty. If you like a traditional, no-nonsense West Coast IPA, then I think you'll really like it. It's been difficult to score it, but I think it's fair, the scores I've given it. So let's start with aroma. Appearance. flavour. Value for money. Now, this was a part of those the Beer Dad subscriptions, so they were less than £3. So I think for a good quality 7.3% West Coast, it's got to get a 9 out of 10. And then finally, my overall experience. We top the scores up and we get a recommended. I think if you really like West Coast IPAs, you'll probably really enjoy this. If you don't like West Coast IPAs, it doesn't really matter what the score I give it, because there's nothing in here. I mean, if I said, oh yeah, this is a West Coast IPA and it's got some real sweet orange and some real great different fleshy grapefruit and all, you know, that sort of stuff, then you're like, oh yeah, I quite like something a bit different. But then a lot of people say, well, that's not really a proper West Coast IPA. So, yeah, it's a difficult one to score. 71, I think if you like West Coast, you'll like it. As I said, I think Pomona Island do very good West Coast IPAs. They make very good beers generally. I don't drink enough of them, really. Just one of those sort of breweries that, I don't know, doesn't jump out as much. But the stuff I've had has always been good. I know they're a good quality brewery. But let me know, do you drink as much West Coast as East Coast? I mean, if you're watching this channel regularly, you might be like me and don't drink West Coast IPAs. You might drink the occasional one, or by mistake, you're thinking, oh, I'll get this IPA, and then you realise it's more of a West Coast than an East Coast. But do you drink both? Do you drink them equally? Do you like to mix and match? So if you're out going having a drink, 3 or 4 beers of a night, do you like to have a West Coast, then an East Coast, then a West Coast? Let me know how you manage that. Is it a good palate cleanser? Let me know in the comments. And until the next one, well, you know what you're gonna do. You're gonna drink a craft beer. You're gonna like. You're gonna subscribe, and you're gonna keep on rocking.